In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 major themes that you can expect to experience around the time of this powerful super new moon happening on June 14th or 15th, 2026. It's a really great time to rewrite your story. It's a really great time to move on from the past. You'll find a lot of support through synchronicity, through connections, maybe even other people, aligned partnerships, collaborations, joint ventures. It's a time of togetherness. It's a time of we. It's a time of also using these resources, this clarity, this sort of transcendence of the old version of ourselves, and maybe even the help from outside of yourself to ground in your inspired ideas that may have been kind of floating around in your mind without any real footing. Now's the time to take those visions and ground them into reality. A lot of great things happening, my friend. Very excited about this reading. So once again, I'll break this down now into 5 more specific themes, and I'll see you inside the video. Theme number 1, you'll be given an opportunity to rewrite your story, your inner script about who you are, what you deserve, what you're capable of, where you want to go in life. You might notice that you have a lot of mental chatter, and you might find it difficult to quiet your mind and relax and find peace. Sometimes, no matter what you do, certain astrology can have that effect. And Gemini season, Gemini is an air sign, and that's a prime culprit, you might say. But there's benefits to this, because the louder your mental chatter is, the more you'll find yourself noticing it and asking yourself if you agree with some of the streams of thought that just randomly and automatically go through your mind on any given day. What comes to mind is something I read in a book by the contemporary spiritual teacher Oddo. He said that when he was very young, well before, decades before he was actually enlightened, when he was like 7, 8 years old, he noticed there was something off about all the adults in his life. And he said he was blessed. He had a relatively peaceful, loving upbringing, great parents. But there was always something off, and he couldn't quite put his finger on it. He just noticed the way the adults would communicate. Like there was a disconnect oftentimes between what they were saying and what he could perceive the adults were feeling. And then after a while of kind of just sort of like observing all this, it dawned on him. He realized, I know exactly what it is. All of the adults in my life actually believe the thoughts that run through their head. To him, this was very peculiar because it was, even at a young age, it was obvious that the mental chatter didn't necessarily say the truth all the time. It can be very random, very, very untrue, very paranoid, very off. And you might find yourself having that similar epiphany with your own thoughts. To what degree have you been buying into your old story? You may realize more than you'd like, more than you need to, more than it makes sense to. And this awareness, no different than what Oddo realized, is the first step in breaking the connection from your past and embracing the person you become. A lot of times we will have echoes of our prior identity that continue to occupy space in our minds that are in direct conflict with where the universe is pulling us, the person we've grown into. And we're blessed because sometimes the astrology will highlight, as we're experiencing now, this exact discrepancy. And within that's an opportunity to see it for what it is, just a story, not true. An opportunity to make your own story up. You can do that. Our minds are very powerful. They can either work against us or they can work for us. You know, a lot of people who have done pretty remarkable things, many of them athletes are come to mind for me, but there's musicians, people who have wanted to do big things in the world, even people who have wanted to heal themselves, like Joe Dispenza, he comes to mind. A lot of people have done pretty remarkable things with visualization. When you visualize who you want to become in the future, and you're able to kind of tap into what it might feel like and feel that in the present, that our brains don't necessarily know the difference between fantasy and reality. And we actually have the power within ourselves to actually rewrite our old story. And we actually have the power within ourselves to rewrite our story. But the first thing we have to do is see the old story for what it is and let it go and be willing to move on. And this new moon's going to give you a golden opportunity to do just that. Theme number 2, lots and lots of clarity with the caveat of having the tendency to overthink about them. Spirit, your inner guidance, the will of the universe, if you will, it tends to reveal our plan in a way that doesn't really require a whole lot of thinking, does it? It's more like a recognition of a state of being. I felt this recently while in Sedona, and my buddy and I, Aaron, were running a live event, and there was this experience I had after the event where a bunch of people were coming up and thanking me, and I just was completely taken back by just the sincerity of what they were saying, and many had tears in their eyes, and it was like this really real, visceral, like wave of emotion / experience that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I knew this is what I'm meant to be doing. How does it look? Where do I do it? How often do I do it? What do I charge? Like, the mind will start going crazy with the how-tos, the what-ifs, all this stuff. But I was given this moment of clarity, this experience of confirmation, this sort of contrast, you might say, of what it feels like to be out of alignment and what it feels like to be in alignment. It's like a feeling. And you might have that. You might have your own version of that. You might have your own experiences. And it can come in the most subtle ways. And I'll just share another example that's a bit more relatable probably. I was attending an event a little while ago. This is like a couple years ago. And I remember it was at this mastermind, this business mastermind ran by this guy named Sam Ovens. And there was about 100 people in the mastermind, probably like 60 or 80 people at this in-person event. And it was all like what you would call like biz-oppy type of people. Not many of them were really into like what you see me talking about. They were like internet marketer type folks. And I remember being around them for like the first day and a half. I felt insecure about what it is I do. When people are like, what do you do? What kind of coaching do you do? And I'd be very vague. I'd be like, like personal development type stuff, I'd really like brush it off because I just had the sense that I was not around my like crowd. And if they knew I did full moon and new moon and super moon energy updates and talked about Kundalini and light workers and all this kind of stuff, it was gonna not go over as well. So I kind of protected it. I was very vague, as I mentioned. But I found myself at this one point talking to this guy, this real big buff dude. He was like some kind of like fitness coach for entrepreneurs or something. And he was pressing me. He was like, what do you do? And I was like, yeah, I'm a coach. Yeah, what kind of coach? Well, I personal development stuff. Well, what exactly do you do? He wouldn't let it go. He kept grilling me. He could tell I was being vague. And he finally like backed me into a corner. And I was like, all right, well, I help people. It's like, I help people navigate their spiritual awakening. I had an intense Kundalini awakening a long time ago, and it threw me for a loop, and it caused a lot of problems that I later came to see as a mere result of having a complete misunderstanding and no guidance. So I wanted to put out this information and share what I've learned to help people who are awakening right now. I started to spit it all out just like that. And then I saw a tear roll down his cheek. And I was like, are you okay? And he said, yes, I'm just very touched by what you said. And so what I mean is like there was a moment where I saw what I was meant to be doing on this planet. It was like the moment I saw this big buff guy start crying as he just listened to me honestly sharing what I did. So my point is, you will be given glimpses. It maybe has nothing to do with people. It can come in a million different ways, but you'll have experiences of confirmation. But the challenge is not to overthink it, not to need to understand it right now. I know it's hard. I give this advice, but I'm a Gemini. I'm a double Gemini. Gemini moon, Gemini rising. I'm like a super Gemini. I'm very much in my head. Probably why I worry all the time. So I'm saying this not just for you, but also for myself. Because the thinking, if left to its own devices, oftentimes will kind of like distort and ruin and minimize and complicate what can be a very simple unfoldment. But it's not easy. So you might find yourself kind of oscillating back and forth between this kind of knowing, these like intuitive feelings of your next steps, your purpose, where you're meant to go, what you're meant to do, what you're meant to create. And then the mind will be so excited by it, it'll get in there, it'll want to write a bunch of notes down and figure it all out and map it all out. And if you indulge in that too much, what you'll find is that feeling of alignment will start to kind of dissipate. Overthinking can also breed doubt. Trust me, I know. I'm a doubter. I'm a worrier. Overthinking oftentimes will create an anxiety that has nothing to do with our capabilities, nothing to do with whether we can or cannot do it, whether it's realistic or not, but merely it's like just an overwhelming thing for our brain to experience unnecessarily. So during this new moon period, the energy is potent. You'll have the visions of alignment, etc. But you might find in order to really stay grounded and avoid what I said, you might have to go out of your way to chill out. To take time and space to just be, to just let those feelings and intuitions come and go, not needing to grasp them, knowing they're coming from you anyway, they're not going anywhere. And if you can do that, you can allow life to show you the how and the when. Number 3, speaking your truth. Speaking up for yourself. This new moon is going to encourage you to express yourself honestly. I don't mean necessarily like you have to become a YouTuber. I mean in everyday situations. You might find yourself confronted with a circumstance, a little predicament where in the past you would have just held it in. I don't want to be impolite. I don't want to rustle any feathers. You hold it in. And that seemed at the time like the wisest thing to do, but you might find yourself unable to hold it in because your greater truth is emerging and knows better than to stuff in that way. And it's so liberating to just let it out, whatever it is. It can be anything. It happened to me the other day on the plane. I always pick the aisle seat. I'm not super tall. I'm like almost 6 feet, and I'm tall. I kind of like long legs, so I like to have the aisle seat when possible. And I took my time to pick it. I like chose my seats for this flight. And I was walking down, to get into my seat. I noticed there was a guy in my seat, and the old me would have just avoided potentially a mildly awkward interaction where saying, "Excuse me, you're in my seat." The old me would have feared coming off as being kind of like uptight, and then I had to sit by this person. But I walked up. I was like, "Excuse me, I think you might be in my seat. Would you mind moving over?" Kind of looked up and said, "Yeah, sure. It's no big deal." That easy. This is coming from a recovering people pleaser. Someone who used to be very, very nice. My wife, Pattie, she does not like the word nice. She says, nice is manipulative. Nice is bullshit. It's kind of the way she'll talk frankly around me. What she means by that is being nice. It doesn't always mean you're being authentic. What she likes, she's a fan of being kind. You can be kind. You can be sincere, altruistic, do good things for people, but not because you're avoiding speaking up, not to get something out of someone. Anyways, I'm kind of going off on a thing here, but it's not the time to be nice. It's a time to be authentic. It's not the time to go crazy and start yelling at people. This can happen, believe it or not. I've gone through these sort of phases where I've kind of awoken to my power and realized I have the right to speak my truth. And because at these times, this sort of, wave of confidence would come over me, I would sometimes overdo it. And I would be like too blunt, too like, not too authentic, but not mindful of how I'm coming across, not mindful of how the person was going to react. And I would kind of like overcorrect and end up having to deal with that mess, hurting people's feelings or whatever, you know. So it's a time to be kind of mindful, but also allow yourself to express what's on your mind. A lot of times it's so much easier when you just do that. So many problems in life can be avoided by just being clear and communicating. And for me, luckily, running a business has just forced me to do that. Every like notch of success I've experienced, and the more people I work with, and running retreats and coaching and dealing with the online, you know, thing, it's kind of put me in a position where I like have had to set clear boundaries in order to continue doing what I'm doing now. For example, I don't read every single comment. And I know you might look at that and say, well, this guy doesn't care. I get probably 500 comments a day throughout my whole YouTube channel. It would be a full-time job doing that. And what that would do is I would say probably 2% are very nasty comments that I'm not going to even repeat here. People who are just on there to sort of like vent their own frustrations, and I'm just like this target. So every time I do read a lot of comments, I read quite a few of them, but I'll be reading and reading and reading and reading, and oh, thank you, oh, this is so great, pow! Smacked in the face, and I feel it. I feel it, and it never gets easy. Cruel intentions, negativity, sort of just like directed at least me. I have not come to a place where I'm impervious to that. And you know what that'll sometimes do? It'll get me in my head. It'll get me worried some more, and it'll make it where I'm not in the right state of consciousness to film a video from a clear place. So my point is, I can be nice and go and read every comment and give it a heart and give it a nice response, but you'd see one video a month out of Victor, and it probably wouldn't even be very good because of that. And you might find yourself, for like the greater good, you must be firm. You must be assertive. You must speak your truth. And this new moon, what I'm saying, I'm not saying you're going to be put in this like really challenging situation where you finally have to speak up, but you really don't want to. What I'm saying is you're going to want to. You're going to realize how much more natural it feels to speak up. This could even involve pursuing something. It doesn't have to mean like verbal expression, as if you're all people who struggle with that. A lot of you probably aren't. I mean like expression, any type of expression. This could be painting. This could be anything you've been holding back on for whatever reason. The new moon is going to give you kind of a boost of confidence and passion that will help you break through that. Theme number 4, grounding in new ideas into reality. This might involve collaboration. In fact, what I've noticed a lot of times, I'll have like an inspired idea, and initially it'll feel very unrealistic because for a lot of reasons. One, I have no idea how it's going to go, which we talked about that already. And two, I might seem limited in my resources, time, energy, skill, whatever. And 3, there's usually like deeper self-worth issues. So it's usually like an inspired idea comes and all those things just sort of hit you. Do you guys notice that? But a lot of times what will eventually happen when the time is actually ripe to do the thing, I will be given outside support from the universe, sometimes through other people. You don't know how much easier your plans can be carried out when you don't do it all by yourself. This could be like, it's a good time for like joint ventures, business partners, just like alliances, if you will, mentors, coaches, etc. In fact, I'll tell you this. I've had a guitar teacher, for like a guitar coach, you might say, for the last like 14, 15 months. And he's been traveling. I've been kind of busy, so I kind of paused him for a while. And I tell you what, man, my practice has declined tremendously. My progress I'm barely maintaining. And I realized, and it's like, for whatever reason, having somebody I got to like answer to, it was enough to keep me like on track consistently for like almost 18 months. So I gotta give him a call, basically is what I'm saying. My point is, Does that mean I'm weak? Oh, I see a lot of people in the spiritual community say, oh no, spirituality is a solo thing. You got to be all by yourself and no one can give you anything. Yeah, on some level that there's truth to that, but it's also, we are social creatures. That is a fact. And life can be a lot easier and go a lot more smoothly when we don't insist on doing it alone, having a guitar coach. Simple example is that. It's way easier for me to get better at guitar having a guy as a guide. And I've humbled myself to admit that. I don't have to take on the world all by myself, and neither do you. Regardless whether you agree or not, the new moon's gonna, if you're open anyway, bring you perhaps some people and different players and different opportunities where you might be able to kind of align your intentions and get where you want to go a heck of a lot faster. In fact, if this is you, if you are somebody who in particular has like a business idea, a business you want to create, we have a brand new community that my friend Aaron Dowdy have just started where this is actually happening. It's a perfect example. And we're running a new program called the Conscious Business Accelerator. I'll leave a link down below for those who this speaks to. It might not be all of you, and that's totally fine, but it's a place where you can link up with like-minded people. And my friend Aaron and I are going to be sharing with you how we've done what we've done, which is create successful online businesses and careers around our purpose, around our passion, around our life's and soul's mission. This is a legit career opportunity. And if you want to learn how to do that, I'll leave a link below, check it out. But regardless, this is the time of alliances, we'll say. And finally, number 5, coming home to what really matters in life. It's so easy to forget what matters in life because life is so busy. There are so many distractions. There are so many things in our field of awareness that resemble life. What comes to mind is something the late great Jim Morrison said back in like the late 60s, early 70s. He said, it's a spectacle. It's kind of sad that millions of Americans, and this could be anybody in the world, gather in front of a television screen each and every night to watch a second or third hand version of reality, when reality is happening right outside of their door, right outside of their window. They're missing it. Can you imagine what he would say now? How much of reality are we missing by watching a second, third, fourth hand version of it just on our phone? And it resembles connection. It resembles excitement. It resembles all the things, but it's not the thing. In fact, my opinion, it does a very poor job at resembling love, connection, happiness. Rarely when you're around your friends and you're laughing, that is a lot different than watching a comedy on Netflix by yourself. My point is not here to judge. I do all these things. But what I'm saying is you might start kind of waking up to that and asking yourself, how could I live a little bit differently? I was on Facebook the other day, just yesterday, in fact, and I saw my buddy who's now passed, my buddy Derek. He died. He's a best friend of mine. And I saw all these photos of him that his mom posted, and I was just like getting lost in all these photos. And so many of them were like when he was a teenager, when him and I were so close. And I realized like how real that was. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't watch much TV. We just hung out all the time, me and my buddies from high school. And yeah, it wasn't perfect. We got into a lot of trouble and did a lot of drugs and things like that. But even with that, there was a realness to it. And I remember it made me realize how fast life goes. It feels like just yesterday, I was a 15-year-old kid riding my bike to his house to go do whatever, hang out, smoke a joint, go laugh, go to a movie, whatever. And now it's like he's gone. And even before that, I hadn't talked to him really much. And it's like life is happening. Life is going to keep going by faster and faster. You might even feel that. Life is going by faster, at least to our perception. Would you agree? Let me know in the comments. I'm thinking about actually making a whole video about time speeding up and going into that a little bit. Let me know. I'd be curious. Does it feel like life and time is speeding up? I don't know if time is speeding up, but I know my perception of time is being changed. And it seems like I'm growing and things are changing. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. You can let me know. But I'm realizing like what's here 1 minute is not going to be here the next minute. You're never going to get it again. Another coach of mine, Doug, He said to me, the good old days are right now. You just have to realize that, Vic. So you might be having your own contemplation of that at some point. So anyways, my friends, thanks for watching. Happy new moon. I'll see you next time. Peace.